Good to go.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Allie Dosdell, and I work for We Are Memory Keepers. And I've been with them for about 10 years, a little more. And I've done various things for them. I've been involved in creating craft samples for them, in representing them on TV and at trade shows. I manage their social media. I'm kind of their spokesperson. So it's been a really fun journey. And I absolutely love this company. We Are Memory Keepers. They're so innovative and so on the edge, cutting edge of the craft world. So I really love that. And they do all kinds of fun tools for all different kinds of crafting, paper crafts, and, obviously tumbler making and all kinds of stuff, soap making and fun stuff. So we are so happy to be able to bring you this program in partnership with Michaels. And this is actually the first tumbler making program that's a dedicated program to tumbler making that's been offered in craft stores. So we're really proud to be partnering with Michaels to bring that to you. So I'm going to step around to the backside of my desk and show you some of the products in the line. Just so you are getting a little familiar with what's available. And then we'll dive right into making some cool tumblers. So we have all kinds of glitter in different colors and different sizes. We've got extra fine all the way up to super chunky. In, again, gorgeous colors. We have some fun mixes that, that involve different sizes and different colors of glitter. So that's really fun. We've got some cool mix-ins too. This is sawdust, so that's really fun. There's some other really cool ones. We've also got beautiful mica powders so that you can color your epoxy. And so we've got vinyl decals. We've got accessories like a silicone brush. It makes it easy to apply the epoxy, and the silicone resists the epoxy so it doesn't bond to it, so it's easy cleanup. But the star of the collection is our Spin It Pro machine. And this machine is, in my mind, absolutely fantastic for tumbler making for several reasons. First of all, I love that it is USB powered. So you'll need like a charger or a USB outlet adapter for your wall adapter. But it doesn't take a lot of power. So I had this on there overnight, finishing up a tumbler, and this will go for another day. So easy to use. That makes it portable. So if you want to craft, in different places, or, take it with you on the go, that makes it really easy. You don't have to worry about being attached to a wall plug. So that's great. The other thing I love is that this dial here allows you to adjust the speed of your turner. So as it's turning and as the epoxy is curing, you can use different speeds. So that's nice if you're trying to apply something or paint something, or you just want the epoxy to spin, you can adjust the speed according to what you want to do. So that's really cool. Another feature that I love is we have a support arm here that holds this in place, and that makes it so that you can use tumblers up to 32 ounces. So if you want to get your big ones out and make some really big, nice tumblers, you can totally use this machine. So it's plenty strong. And also, let's see if I can do this. So this is a removable arm, which I'm going to show you later on, and that makes it great for spray painting. If you want to put your tumbler on here first and then do your spray painting, you can, and then you can also hydro dip with this. So that's really cool as well. So let me get this back in there. And then the last thing I want to point out is the spring-loaded arm here. So that means that you can add on cups and tumblers, bottles of all different sizes, because you just squeeze those pieces and you can fit tons of different sizes, and it holds it really securely. So that's really nice. So that is all about the machine. So let me show you what we're going to make today. We're going to do a fun technique called hydro dipping. And this is what it looks like. Super pretty, super fun. So there's a glitter base underneath, and then you're going to do hydro dipping, and that's a technique that you can do for all kinds of crafts. People to hydro dip their shoes, or other kinds of things, ceramics and stuff. And it's just where you dip it into some water with paint sprayed on the surface. So, but that's what we're going to do, and then we coat it with epoxy so that it's nice and strong and sturdy and can be used, for years to come. So it makes a great gift because it's a long lasting craft. So some of the crafts that we make sometimes don't last super long, but they're really fun to make. But this is a long lasting craft. It'll last for years to come. And it's useful as the weather warms up and, we want to stay hydrated. A tumbler is a great gift. If you've got, a teacher or a friend, a shower or, all kinds of different occasions, a birthday, a custom tumbler is awesome. And you can add vinyl decals. You can put their name on. You can put, sayings or quotes or phrases that you like, icons that you love. So a lot of different options for decorating these that are really fun. Here's a couple others that we have made in previous Michael's classes. This is a Winter Wonderland tumbler with some snowflakes and glitter and just kind of a windswept look. This is a another kind of tumbler that we have powders that are solar activated and heat activated. And so the colors will change if it's in the sunshine or if it's got warm or cold, depending on if it has warm or cold liquid inside. So that's really fun too, especially for the summer. So anyway, just a lot of fun things to do and to make, and a lot of different ways to be creative with this program that we have at Michael's. All right, so let me talk you through the different phases. We're going to do this in phases because it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of drying. So you're going to want a few days of time dedicated to do this. It doesn't require you to be involved. Most of it is just drying, things drying, the tumbler spinning and the epoxy curing. So your actual work time is not very long at all. It's just you need some time for the drying. So we're going to go from this. This is available at Michael's. It's an 18-ounce Art Minds tumbler, stainless steel. So that means you don't put this in the dishwasher. Any kind of stainless steel tumbler or bottle that you drink out of, you're going to need to hand wash. And that we're going to start with painting it. We want to start with a clean white canvas because that allows your colors, whether you're painting or whether you're adding glitter or whatever you're doing, you need a nice clean white canvas to work with. So start with spray painting that. And the kind I recommend that's available at Michael's is this Rust-Oleum. It's a paint and primer in one. It's a white. So that's the one I recommend. So you're going to want to do that, follow the manufacturer's instructions to let it dry. And before you paint it, actually, I do recommend going over the tumbler, the outside of the tumbler, with a cotton ball dipped in rubbing alcohol, just to get all the oils and the dirt and the debris off of it. And then go ahead and paint it, and that'll just help your paint to last a little longer. So once you've done that, and that's all dried, then you're ready to add your glitter base. So that's where we're going to get started. So the first thing I like to do, if we can switch to the overhead camera, please, that would be awesome. So you can see what I'm doing. So the first thing I like to do is I like to tape off the lip here of the cup, and that's so that the epoxy doesn't get inside the tumbler. We don't want any epoxy drying inside there. So we're just going to place some tape around. And I use about 2-inch strips, maybe 2 to 3 inch strips, because that way you can go around the circumference of the cup with no problem, because if you try to do a long strip, you're going to struggle. So you can use painter's tape, you can use washi tape, as long as it's, it sticks pretty well. This is just masking tape, but we're just going to do that to protect the cup so that no epoxy gets inside there. All right, so once you've done that, then you're going to take your machine and you're going to just squeeze these together and place that on, and then just make sure your tape isn't bunched up, and pull it out a little bit. And then you just slide that gently on until those little guys disappear. And then what I like to do is I like to turn it on and just watch it overhead and make sure that it's straight. And then I kind of watch it from the side too, and just make sure it's on straight. Just let it rotate a few times. Now, see, I can already see it's just a little bit crooked, because as it's curing, as the epoxy is curing, you're going to want it to be level and straight so that that epoxy dries nice and smooth. Otherwise, you end up with bumps kind of gathering at the bottom, sort of pooling at the bottom or in one spot on your tumbler. And you can't really do anything about that. Once the epoxy cures and it's all bubbled up like that, it's going to be hard to change that. So just make sure that your cup is on nice and level and straight. Go around a few times and just make sure that's looking good. All right. Okay, so that's ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix some epoxy. And let me just mention a couple of safety precautions that you want to take. You do want to do this in a well-ventilated area. You do want to wear protective gloves. And if you are sensitive to, if you have asthma or, respiratory sensitivities, you might even consider wearing a mask. You don't need to. The instructions don't mention anything like that. It's perfectly safe. It's just if you have sensitivity to smells or, particles in the air or anything like that, then that might be a good idea. The other thing you're going to want to do is protect the bottom of your machine and your work surface. So I've got a crafting mat down on my work surface, and then I'm going to put this silicone mat right under here so that when the epoxy is going on and it drips, it lands on here, and this, you just peel it right off once it's cured because it's silicone and the epoxy does not bond with the silicone. Another thing you can do, I think I have one here, is just plastic drop cloth. You can use that as well, or even, I know I've used just a piece of newspaper or some scrap paper or whatever, as long as there's something protective under there. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to use some of this clear cast Allumilite, and this comes in two parts, the A part and the B part. There's the resin and the hardener. And it comes with some measuring cups, which are really handy to use. I recommend using those. If you run out of these, you can use little paper cups, but these are nice because they do have the measurements on them, and you can actually wipe these out while the epoxy is still wet so that you can reuse them. So that's good. And then it also comes with a stir stick. If you need more of these, you can grab more at Michael's. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And the trick here is that you want to use equal parts A and B. And the reason, that's why we want the measuring here, because you can see, like, for example, for an 18 ounce, for this cup, we're going to use about 25 milliliters of epoxy total. So that's going to be our total. So that means when we're adding the epoxy, we're going to add the first part up to 12.5, which is marked on this cup, and then we'll fill it all the way up to 25 with the other part. So that way we know we're getting the exact amounts that we need, the one-on-one, or one-to-one, I should say. So I'm going to go ahead and dip down a little so I can see, and just pour this in up to the 12.5. And there's one part, the epoxy part, that is a little stickier. So if you're using 2 cups, some people like to use 2 cups and measure and then stir in a separate cup. If you want to do that, I recommend pouring the part B into the part A, because the part B is runnier, so it's a little easier to pour. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fill this up to 25. All right. All right, so here's an important part about epoxy, and this is probably the most important thing that you'll learn today, is you need to stir this and follow the manufacturer's instructions, because some epoxy might be different than others, but I stir this for 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm going to take a look at my watch really quickly. We're at 4:15 Central Time, 3:15 Utah time, and I'm going to do this for 3 minutes. And the reason why you want to make sure that you do it for exactly how long it says is because if you don't, your epoxy is not going to cure properly. You're going to have problems with it. It's going to be soft. And it's just not going to be right. And so that'll ruin your whole project, which is kind of sad if you're, invested in a craft like this, that's a long lasting, durable craft. You want to make sure that you do it right. So be sure to stir for the full 3 to 4 minutes. And I would rather have you stir longer than understir. You can't do any damage by overstirring, but you definitely can by understirring. So if anything, err on the side of longer stirring. Now you're going to notice as you're stirring that it's cloudy. It starts to get cloudy as you mix the 2 chemicals together, the 2 parts together, and then it becomes clear. So you also want to watch for that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're done with your 3 to 4 minutes. It just means that the chemical reaction is happening. So that's exactly what this is it's a chemical reaction between the 2 parts. And you might feel a little teeny bit of heat, not a ton. at all, but just a little bit of warmth in there as the two parts are reacting. Now, one important thing to remember is you don't want to stir too fast or too vigorously because you will create additional air bubbles. Now, there are going to be some air bubbles in epoxy just naturally. That's just going to happen no matter how slow you stir. But we do have a remedy for that, which I will show you as we go along. But you do want to stir carefully enough that you're not really working a lot of air bubbles in there. So the way we're going to get rid of those is with a heat gun. And some people use a small torch, blowtorch, like a butane torch. But I happen to have a heat gun and that works great. A hair dryer will not do the same thing. That is not hot enough to pop those bubbles. It will it will heat up your epoxy, which sometimes can get it a little bit runny. So like sometimes you can use that if you want to do a certain technique where you're sort of moving your epoxy around and swirling it. But that's not really going to help get your bubbles out. You do need something hotter than a hairdryer for popping those bubbles. All right, so let me take a look at my time. Okay, we've got maybe like 30 more seconds. Are there any questions up to this point?
Yeah, can you repeat the type of paint that you used for?
Yes, absolutely. So I use this, it's the Rust-Oleum paint and primer in one, and it's white. So that's my favorite kind because you just spray it on. You don't even really need two coats because it's such a good quality paint and primer. So.
And someone says it sounds similar to resin.
Yes, this is resin.
Yeah.
I guess it's epoxy resin. That's the full term, but some people call it epoxy, some people call it resin. Yes, it absolutely is. So resin crafts are really fun and they're really hot in the craft world right now. Any other questions?
Can you give us the name of the epoxy or the resin that you're using again?
Yes, it's called Allumilite. Let me grab the package so you can see what that looks like. It's amazing clear cast. Make sure you get the clear. There is colored epoxy, so you want to make sure you get the clear. And it comes in 2 parts. All right. Any other questions so far?
I don't think so.
Okay,
From what I can.
great.
Oh, is it food safe?
Yes, good question. It is FDA approved, which means that you can serve food on it. You can drink drinks out of it. You know, it's so if you're making a tray or something, it's perfectly safe for food. Good question. You do want to make sure whatever epoxy you're using for this, that it is going to be FDA approved. So, all right, I think we're ready to add some glitter. And this is what we're going to use. This is the fairy dust glitter mix. So you've got different sizes of glitter in there, and they're kind of, you know, I don't know what you call that. I can't even think of the term where that's sort of like shimmery, iridescent, and really fun. So this will just give you a nice base. So let me pop this open. We don't need a ton of the glitter in there. Let me just sprinkle some in. That's because that's going to go a long way. A little's going to go a long way. So we're just going to do that. Sprinkle that in. You can use a little spoon if you want, so you're not spilling your glitter. And then just kind of carefully work that in so that it's mixed up. I probably want a little bit more than that. Let's put a little bit more in. Again, little, you know, if you want to add it a little at a time, that's easier because once you've got it in there, you can't get it out. So it's better to add a little bit and then keep adding more until you're satisfied. So that looks good. So we've got enough in there. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but as you're stirring that epoxy, make sure that you're scraping the bottom and the sides so that you get every bit mixed up in there. So that's just a tip there. All right, so we've got that ready. Then we're going to turn on our machine, and for adding this glitter layer, we're not going to put it on super high, super fast. It's going to be kind of slow. And I'm going to use this brush, the silicone brush, to kind of help me to distribute the epoxy and the glitter. And we're just doing like a little bit at a time, maybe like, I don't know, half a teaspoon. And we're just going to keep, spreading this around. Some people like to do this with their fingers. Eventually, I usually end up using my fingers towards the end, once I apply it, just because that way you can feel if it's smooth and if it's all covered. So sometimes the eye can trick you a little bit and you might think that you've got it covered, but it's not quite fully covered. So you do want to cover every single inch of this cup, including the bottom. And here's where this brush comes in handy, is you can kind of brush it down onto the bottom. So now some people, when they make their tumblers, like to leave this bottom from this line down, like to leave that stainless steel so it's bare, and that's fine. You can totally do that. You would just tape it off with the masking tape or whatever kind of tape you decide to use. So let me just get a little bit more down here. Spread that around. Make sure you get your edges too down here. All right, a little bit more up here. Spread that around. Okay, looks like we're pretty much empty. Now again, when you're doing this, I would take some time to wipe out this cup with a paper towel while the epoxy is still wet so that you can reuse that cup. I'm not going to do that right now, just so we have time to show everything in the class. So I'm going to take this and just kind of spread from one end to the other. And in this situation, I used less glitter. If I was doing like an all glitter cup, you can do all glitter, I would definitely use more glitter. And so this is meant to just be a base layer. So I'm not going to use quite as much as I would if my whole cup was supposed to be just covered with glitter and nothing else. So this is kind of a, less heavy use of the glitter just to get a pretty base. Okay, now I'm noticing there's a little bit of buildup down here around the bottom. So I'm taking my brush and just kind of moving that epoxy so that it covers the whole cup and so that it's not pulling in any one place. All right, so at this point, this is when I would use my fingers. So I'm going to place that right there on the silicone so it doesn't stick to my mat here. And I'm just going to go across back and forth like this and just make sure that it's totally smooth. You can kind of feel the epoxy underneath your fingers. The other reason why you want to use your hand at this point is because this particular glitter mix has some chunky glitter in it. So that way you can smooth that glitter flat so you don't have any pieces of glitter poking up and creating, bumps where you don't want them on your cup. So I'm just kind of pressing that glitter down flat into the epoxy and just making sure everything feels nice and smooth and is totally covered. And I'm going to just do that same thing down here on the bottom. Just spread that epoxy around and make sure that it's all over the place. Now, the nice thing about this epoxy is it's self-leveling epoxy. So it levels itself out as it's spinning, which is fantastic. So you don't have to, stick around and mess with it. So what's going to happen is once you've got this epoxy on here and you're satisfied with the coverage and it's nice and smooth, you're going to leave it on the spinner for 8 hours. It needs to spin for 6 to 8, I think is fine. I usually like to go 8 hours. And once you get to 8 hours, you can turn the spinner off. You can remove the arm if you want, but you don't want to touch it because it's still a little bit pliable. So then you'll let it sit for a full 24 hours from, right now, and that'll fully cure around the outside. So I'm going to now scoot this up so that we can continue on with the next phase, which is my favorite, which is the hydro dipping. So let me just wipe off my brush here.
We do have quite a few questions now.
All right. Yes, let's answer some questions.
So someone wants to know, when do you sand it? Do you sand it at all?
So some people like to sand it before they paint it. They like to sand the stainless steel. I would go with your manufacturer's instructions with whatever paint you're using. This particular primer, you don't need to sand the before you paint, but there are some out there that you do need to sand before you paint.
Gotcha.
Now, the other thing you might do is if you are doing 2 layers of epoxy, some people you might, let's see, Here, let me pull this back in so you can see. Okay, so at this point, if we were not hydro dipping, whoops, I turned it off. That was my bad. If we were not hydro dipping, once this epoxy here cures, you could add a vinyl decal, or you could add water slide paper, or there's all kinds of fun things that you can do. You could add a little paint or some alcohol inks. Once you've done that and let that dry completely, then you would want to do a second layer of epoxy around that to seal in your vinyl, to seal in your water slide paper, whatever you add on top of the glitter. So that's when you're going to do that. And some people like to do a little bit of light sanding before the second coat so that that epoxy really adheres nicely to the second coat. So you could do that too. If you do get this finished and you notice any bumps that you don't want, you know, any imperfections, you can sand that and then do a second coat of epoxy and that will smooth it out. So good question. Other questions?
And can they do it without painting it? Can they just use the stainless steel tumbler?
You can. It's going to show through whatever you put on there. So like the very first tumbler I ever did several years ago, I didn't paint it. And now that I look at it, I don't know if I can, I don't think it's in here. I think it's somewhere else, but I added glitter stripes. I used double-sided tape and put that all around and made stripes. And it was a very cool thing. But when I finished it, I looked at it and you could see that gray, that stainless steel gray, you know, coming right through all that glitter. Glitter is transparent. It is not opaque. So it's always best to have a layer of paint underneath. So good question.
And someone wants to know, can you purchase a different attachment for the original Spinet, not the Pro?
Yes, you can. That is coming soon. I believe by the summer that should be available. So if you want to just add the new arm to the original Spinet machine, you can do that. So,
and is there any machine that you can do 64-ounce tumblers on?
Not that we have. The max for this one is 32 ounces. I'm really honestly not familiar with there's only maybe one or two other machines on the market. There just aren't a ton, but most people are making them themselves with PVC pipe and wood and rotisserie motors and Nerf footballs and all kinds of crazy stuff. But that, you know, so I don't know. So that's a good question. But this one doesn't. This one just does 32 ounces.
And can you use the pre-colored tumbler, like the tumblers that are already like painted or colored? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah, I did that. It was kind of a mint green one and then added some aqua glitter on top of that one and it turned out really pretty. So you could do that. I would say that worked because the two colors were similar. But if you really want, like, honestly, my favorite is just a white canvas because whatever color you put on top of that is just going to pop. It's really going to stand out nicely. So good question.
And last one for now. Does it matter if the spray paint is shiny or matte?
I would go with matte for sure.
Okay.
Or semi-gloss, but not glossy, not glossy. Okay, for the base coat. For later on, you could use glossy. Okay, other questions? We
Can they use a spinner with mugs, like coffee mugs?
Yes, mugs, little, you know, the small wine tumblers. I've seen baby bottles, sippy cups. Somebody did a pot. They did a ceramic pot and glittered it and then put epoxy on the outside. So yeah, anything that could fit on here. And let me just do this so you can see how thin that gets. So if you can fit it on there like that, that's probably like, you know, at the most 3 inches, maybe 2.5, maybe 2 even, I don't know. Then you can fit it on there. So that's kind of fun. A lot of options.
I just have a picture of a baby bottle in my mind. It's all blinged out.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yep. Oh, totally. Bling that baby bottle. It's really fun. All right.
I think we're good.
Okay, thanks. Great questions. All right. So at this point, I already have a tumbler that I created ahead of time and put the base on. So I'm going to put some tape in there. Oh, no, sorry. We're not doing that yet. My bad. Okay. So let me move my table down. I have an adjustable height table so that you can see when I'm painting, because my bucket is a 5-gallon bucket and it's kind of tall. So I don't want to get it so close that you can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to roll this down a little bit. Okay, and let me just grab a plastic bag for this next part. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna get my 5-gallon bucket up here. You can use a 5-gallon bucket. You can also use, oh, there's some grass. My daughter had her rock collection in here and I just rinsed it out, but it looks like I missed a piece of grass. Okay. So you can use, I've seen people use just the clear storage bins, any kind of plastic container. I'm trying to think, this is probably 1.5 feet of water. So you need to have quite a bit of water in there. I would say at least 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet of water to dip in. You need quite a bit of room to dip in. So what I'm going to do is, this water temperature is like room temperature. So you don't want to go too warm because some paints will actually start to kind of dry if it's too warm. So you want to keep it, but you don't want to go too cold because paints don't react well to if it's too cold. So room temperature is a pretty good way to go. So you're going to fill that up. And then I've got 3 different colors of paint here. And this is where the fun part is. This is where you get creative. This is one of my favorite color combinations. My husband always teases me. He says, it looks like the 70s. And I'm like, yeah, awesome. So this is what I've got. I've got Mambo Pink, Sunrise, and Ballet Slipper. And these are Krylon. This is a paint and primer mix. And it's great. These are great. They dry pretty quickly and they're easy to use. You can use them for indoor, outdoor. So these are great paints. So I'm going to go ahead and all you're going to do, again, well-ventilated space because you're spraying. Most of the time I do this outdoors if I'm not teaching the class. But I'm just going to see if I can pop this top off. My hands are not very strong. There we go. Okay. Make sure you can hear that, bearing in there as you shake it around. And then we're just going to start spraying right on top of the surface of the water in 3 different colors, which is going to be really fun. And I don't think it really matters so much the order because it sort of all just kind of mixes up as you're dipping that cup in. You're just going to keep spraying. And I just keep repeating the same order over and over again. Here's the light pink. Sometimes I do that a little bit longer because it's a lighter color. Right, back to the dark pink. And that right on top. Back to the orange. Light pink. Now, if there's a color that you want to be more dominant in your design, spray more of that, obviously. Oops, wrong way. Don't want to spray my face. All right. Okay, so I think we're pretty good there. Now I'm going to remove this arm. And what I do is to protect it from getting paint all over it, I just put a plastic bag on top before I put the tumbler on it. And that just keeps it from getting all covered in paint. If you do get paint on it, acetone works great to remove it, just pure acetone. All right, so you're going to do that. We're going to hold on to this base right here. And you're going to just rotate. You're going to hold it at an angle like this, not straight down, at an angle, and then just rotate as you put it down in. Now, I'm just going to spray a little bit more because I should have probably put that bag on ahead of time.
And that's just on water, right?
That's just on regular water. Yep, right on regular water. And again, this is a technique that you can use for a lot of other crafts. You can hydro dip a lot of different things. All right, so here we go. This is my favorite part. Okay, look. Okay, so I'm going to dump the water out. All right, but take a look at that. Isn't that cool? Look how amazing that is. So fun. And you can see some of the glitter comes through and you've got these really cool swirly patterns and different colors. And the thing I love about this is it's never exactly the same. Like it's always a little different, which is really fun. Now here's a little tip. What I usually do is I wait for like maybe 5 minutes, and I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to make you guys wait and stand there with me for 5 minutes, but I wait about 5-10 minutes for this to dry just a bit. and then they pat it with a paper towel, and that's to get rid of those water droplets so they don't cause bubbles in the paint, you know, so it's kind of a more of a smooth surface. So for now, I'm just going to set this aside so that can dry. And then we will move on to the next phase. And before we do you have any questions up until now?
Yeah. So can you use a different paint instead of spray paint?
Spray paint works the best because when it comes out, it's very light. It's aerated, I don't know, aerosol kind of a thing. So it's combined with some air. So that works best. Just pouring paint on top, I don't recommend it. That's going to get really messy. One quick thing I forgot to mention is all you need to do to clean up is just take a paper towel and kind of wipe that across the surface, and that paint just collects into the paper towel. And that way you can dump the water out safely in the drain and not worry about adding paint to the environment. So I'm not going to do that entirely right now, but other questions.
What kind of spray paint were you using just now?
Okay, so this is Krylon. Let me grab one of the cans. Colormaster, it's a paint and primer mix. This was Ballet Slipper Sunrise. I think that's in the class description, Mambo Pink. Excuse me, my allergies are. All right, let me grab a drink of water real quick. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it. Everybody's just super surprised. They love it. It's really cool.
Great.
And I don't know if you can hold it closer now or if we wait a little bit for it to dry.
Oh, for the I can hold it closer now. Okay. It's still got, keep in mind, it still has water droplets on it. So you'll see little bumps, but I'll get those off. Just like pat a paper towel on there. Isn't that fun? Super fun. And I can get the one that's finished so you can see that closer. Once it has its pretty coat of epoxy on there.
Love it.
So isn't that gorgeous? That's a really nice gift.
Can you reuse the paint if you're doing more tumblers that are the same color?
You can reuse the same bucket. I would clean it out and then add more paint to the water, but you can do it more than once. I would do it maybe maximum twice because you can't quite get all the paint out. Like, you know, there's always gonna be these little kind of chunks, little bitty pieces here and there, and that'll end up on your cup. So maybe twice, you use the same water twice, but add paint to the second time. Good question.
And how long should you wait for the spray paint?
That's going to depend on the type that you're using. This particular kind dries in about 10 to 15 minutes. It's very quick drying, but you know, just follow your manufacturer instructions for the type of paint that you are using. Sorry, I need to grab another arm so that I can add it onto the machine. That one's drying. All right. You know, actually, hang on. I'm going to pull this off. I think my other one is at work.
And one more, do you have to use that glitter resin base before you put the paint on, or can you just go straight to the paint?
You can go straight to the paint. That's a great question. You don't have to put glitter underneath it. You do want to do a white base though, so that all your different colors will really pop and stand out. But you don't have to add glitter. You can just do it right over the original paint coat. Okay. Other questions before we move on?
No, we're good.
No, we're good. Okay. All right. So here's a cup that I finished. And it's dried. So it's got the glitter base and it's got the paint on it. So now, and I've taped it up. So now I'm just going to add it onto the arm. And then we're going to add on a final coat of epoxy. All right, and I'm going to put my tarp under there. Okay, so again, for this, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to mix the two parts. And we're going to use the same amount. I would say for this, you could even, if you've got a nice smooth surface and you didn't have to sand anything down, you probably could use like, 20 ounces if you wanted to. So I might try that because sometimes a thin second coat is good if it's nice and smooth. If you've got a few little bumps and imperfections that you had to sand down, I would use a little more just to get it nice and smooth. So I'm going to go for like 10, maybe 11. All right. We'll add the hardener. Get that up to 20. Maybe just over 20. Another thing that people do when measuring epoxy is if you have a little scale that's an ounce scale, for food, you can use that to measure, like, to actually weigh and get, get the, ooh, my gloves, sorry, get your portions just right. So you've got the 1-to-1 ratio. That's another point that's really important. Most epoxies won't cure properly if you don't have that ratio accurate. So that's just another tip as far as epoxy goes. Now, right now, before you add the epoxy, I recommend going over that again with a cotton ball soaked in rubbing alcohol, just to get any debris, dirt, skin oils. Some kinds of epoxy, if you've got skin oils on there and you touch it with your fingers, then you'll get what are called fish eyes on your epoxy resin. They're little dents and imperfections. So if you've got a nice clean tumbler, you've gone over it with some alcohol, then you should be good. So that's just another tip as far as imperfections with the resin go, is if your surface has oils or dirt or anything, that can affect the quality of the epoxy. So you want to make sure that you have gone over that with rubbing alcohol to clean it. Now, another tip is if now I've done hydro dip tumblers where paint has entirely covered the glitter, and I didn't see any really showing through like I wanted it to. So what you can do is sort of cheat and take either like a cotton swab or a Q-tip or something, dip it in the acetone, pure acetone. This is pure acetone, 100% pure. You can get that at any drugstore, and then you just go over the paint and sort of follow the lines and kind of expose more of that glitter if you want to. So I sort of did that right here because I didn't see any there, and it was just, if there's a big section with a lot of paint and you don't see any glitter coming through and you want more glitter, you can do that. So that's another tip. But be sure that you let that acetone fully dry and then go over with a cotton ball before you add the final epoxy coat, because if you don't, you will get the fish eyes. You'll get the bumps in your epoxy. It won't be nice and smooth. So, all right, let me look at my watch and just see where we're at. Oops. Okay, just 2 more minutes, maybe a minute and a half. Any questions?
Yeah, so they would like to know, oh, I already answered that one. Nope. Sorry.
That's okay.
Is there a chart for the measurements for the epoxy?
I bet there is somewhere online. I bet somebody has done that and put it up online. So I would just, add that into your search bar, epoxy, Tumbler making epoxy measurements for, different sizes. I don't know, something like that, but I bet there is one. This is my favorite size. I make the 18 ounce all the time. And so I've figured out exactly perfectly how much I need, but, depending on what I'm doing. But that is probably somewhere online. In fact, I'm glad you asked that because I will look and see if I can find that. And we can maybe add it, I don't know, to the description of the YouTube video. I don't know. We'll see. We can get that in there.
And so say if they don't want to do the glitter base epoxy layer, could they add glitter spray paint to the hydro dip?
I bet you could. I have not tried that. I haven't tested it, so I can't say for sure, but I bet you could. Yeah, probably, as long as that glitter doesn't like sink down in the water. I don't know. That's a good question. If you give it a try, let me know, because I would love to see what that would look like. That might be fun.
Yeah. And does pure acetone eat through epoxy?
Yes. So if you have a cup and you've cured the epoxy and you're unhappy with it, it's just a disaster, you can actually soak it in an acetone solution, and it will burn the epoxy through. So that's why you want to get that off. Like once you use the acetone to remove some paint, use the alcohol to get that off before you add your epoxy. Good question.
And can you add more glitter to this layer of epoxy?
You could, yeah. If you wanted to do glitter on top of the paint, you totally could.
Ooh,
That
I
would
bet
be
that would
really
give it like
fun.
a starry galaxy look on your purple
Yes,
one. Ooh.
yes, that would be really fun. Good question. Any others? I think we're almost ready.
No, we're all caught up.
Okay, great. I think we're good. Okay, so now when I add this this final coat, what I'm going to do after I get it all on and it's nice and smooth, I'm going to use my heat gun, and I'm going to just give it a quick shot back and forth so that we can get those bubbles out, because this is the one that really matters. If you don't do that on your base coat, your glitter coat that you originally do, that's not a big deal because you're probably not going to see it. But once you put this nice clear coat on the outside, you are going to want to, I'm going to use my fingers this time. You are going to want to get those bubbles out for sure, because you will see them. So we're just going to rub this around just a little bit at a time. So epoxy is really fun to work with. It's great for this craft, but there are a lot of, like, for example, in our Spin It program, we have molds, silicone molds that you can use for making coasters, for making pendants, for necklaces, because sometimes you're going to be left over with a little bit of epoxy, mixed epoxy that you don't use. And, you know, we hate to like just waste that, right? And so grab yourself some of those silicone molds at Michael's, part of the Spin It program, and then you can make fun other stuff with your leftover epoxy. So that's a good tip as well. In fact, one of the classes we did last winter, when we did our winter Wonderland tumbler, we did do a matching coaster for it. So that was kind of fun. That would make a great gift as well, to have a tumbler with a matching coaster. All right. Get all that out. Okay. I'm just going to go back and forth, work on that bottom and the edges so they're all covered. Okay, now one tip, if you have epoxy that overlaps and gets onto your tape, I just want to give you some tips for dealing with that. So what I do is I let that cure with the tape there and with the epoxy over the edge. And then once it's fully cured, I take a craft knife, and if you apply pressure right where the edge of the cup is and where the tape meets the edge of the cup, you can get that tape to pop off, and you can kind of cut through that epoxy with your knife. So that's just a tip for once this cures and the tape is still there and the epoxy's kind of leaked over, you can still get that off. So some people like to get it off before it's fully cured, but I don't like to risk touching it. So that's how I do it. Any questions?
Yes. So will the bubbles be removed when you're using your hands like that? Or does the spinner remove them?
No, no, you really need heat to remove those bubbles. So now that I've got it all smooth, I'm going to go ahead with this and just give it a quick shot once around. And I'm going to keep it about 5 or 6 inches away, because otherwise you're going to heat that up too much. You don't want to heat it up too much. So I'm going to go back and forth and let that go once around. And those little bubbles, if you're doing this on your own, you can kind of look down and see, you can actually see those little bubbles popping as you go across, which is kind of cool. All right, I think we're right about where we started. Oh, there we are. Okay. All right. So
And
there that is. And then, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
For the sandpaper that you were talking about earlier, could you use the same sandpaper to sandpaper off the extra at the top where you were talking about? Where the tape is?
You could. It's what you really need to get the tape off to initially is you need pressure with a small, from a small space, right? So the smaller the surface area, the more pressure. So you need to put pressure right there, and then it just kind of cracks and comes right off. If you notice little bumps, like, let me see if I can open this. So when I did this one, I actually did this one today. All of my epoxy just broke off right exactly where I pushed that knife down, just like this, right over the edge. And so it's really smooth. If you do notice some bumps, I would just go over it with the knife. If you get that sandpaper out, you risk scuffing up your beautiful epoxy coating. So you really want that nice and glossy look to your epoxy. And if you put the sandpaper on it, that gloss is gone. So I would definitely use a craft knife and just kind of go over it like that if you have any little bumps that you want to get rid of, and that'll get them all up. So good question. Other questions?
Do you need to wear a mask or a respirator while you're doing this?
Good question. So I would read your instructions for your epoxy for sure first. That's where you want to start. Most people don't have any problems with it as long as you're working in a well-ventilated area. But if you are sensitive to smells and to particles in the air, maybe you have asthma or you have a lung condition, a mask wouldn't hurt. It definitely would help. So just, in general, follow the instructions for your epoxy. But, again, if you're sensitive, respiratory wise, a mask certainly wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt.
And do you only dip once in the hydro dip, or can you do the same cup multiple times?
I would only do it once. Otherwise, you're going to kind of mess up that swirly pattern. You're kind of going for, some swirl sort of in the same direction. This one has it in a couple different directions, but if you dip it back in, so what happens when you dip it in is it soaks up most of the paint. So most of the paint sucks onto the cup as you dip it in. You're breaking the surface tension, and so most of the paint sucks onto that cup. So when you pull it out, you're going to notice there's not much paint left. And if you dip it back in, you're going to get kind of a wonky pattern that you probably don't want.
But what if they do two separate layers? Like if they waited for it to dry and then dipped it again?
You could, yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah, you want to be careful not to have too much paint. You just don't want that paint to cake on. Just watch out for that.
And then how long do you wait for the paint to dry after you dip it before you start doing anything else?
It depends on your paint. I would read your instructions for your paint. This particular paint dries in 10 or 15 minutes. So you can work with it pretty quickly after that. But go with your manufacturer instructions, depending on what they say. And there's a difference between dry to the touch and fully dry. You want to wait till it's fully dry. You can right now, this cup is dry to the touch. I can hold it, but I don't want to put epoxy on it yet because it's not fully dry. So it dries to the touch in 10 to 15 minutes, but to work with the epoxy, I would probably let it sit for an hour before I do that. But it just depends on your type of paint that you're using.
And are you using any special type of gloves when you touch the epoxy?
I just, they're not latex, but whatever that other one that's hypoallergenic. I'm sorry, I can't think of the words right now. Anyway, so they're you can get them at a drugstore. And actually, I think some epoxy kits, like at Michael's, they'll have them in there. So it just depends. And I think we also offer a kit for working with epoxy, like kind of a cleanup kit, just a basic kit that's got a tray. It's got this drop cloth. It's got some gloves. It's got some stir cups and stir sticks. So that's available at Michael's too. But this as long as they're rubber and waterproof.
So somebody answered the Barney's. I'm gonna butcher this, but it's nitrile.
Nitrile. Yep,
Nitrile?
there it is. Nitrile. Yes,
Gloves.
I couldn't come up with the word. Thank you. Thank you. Nitrile gloves. That's what I'm using. Yeah, that's what I recommend. But I know some people have thicker ones that are, almost like the cleaning rubber gloves. So those work too. As long as you can, you can move your fingers and you have some dexterity. All right. Any other questions?
I think we are good for now.
All right. Well, if we want to pop back up to the front camera, I will say goodbye. And I just want to thank you for taking your time today on a Friday to craft with me and to learn about tumbler making. It is definitely taking off in the craft world. For a long time, you've been able to order custom tumblers from small businesses, but now we have brought the ability to make your own into your home and into your hands. And it's fun. And like I said, it might take a few days, but it's just this, waiting for it to dry. But the actual time for making it isn't that long, and it's really fun. And it's a long lasting, great craft, great gift idea. Again, for teachers, we're coming to the end of the school year here, and bless those teachers. This has been a rough year for everybody. So give them a nice, long lasting gift and have fun. It's just so fun. Get good, creative and colorful and personalize them. So thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe and healthy. Get out and enjoy the wonderful weather if you have good weather this weekend. And you can reach me at alliedosel.com or at alliedosel on Instagram. If you have questions, feel free to send me a direct message or email me alliedosel@gmail.com. Thanks again.